It's July 27th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour, starting with the 70th anniversary of the Korean War armistice. The remains of 7 South Korean troops have returned home to their families on Wednesday, and a ceremony marking the occasion will take place in Busan City today. The U.S. Central Bank has raised its interest rates by 25 basis points to the highest level in 22 years as it continues to fight to stabilize prices, while offering a few clues about what to expect from the next Fed meeting. Samsung unveiled its new Galaxy Z Flip5 and Galaxy Z Fold5 at an unpacked event held here in Seoul. The new Z Flip is all about a bigger cover display, while the Fold5 has a thinner and a lighter body. On this day 70 years ago, fighting in the Korean War came to an end with the Armistice Agreement. Among many who died during the war, the remains of 7 South Korean troops finally made their way home on Wednesday. Our Oh Soo-young starts us off.
More than 7 decades after he fought and died in the Korean War, the remains of the then 19-year-old Private First Class Chaemnak came home to South Korea and his surviving family. Carried in the arms of his nephew, who is currently serving in the Navy, Che was reunited with his youngest brother, who was 6 years old when Che died in 1950, but is now approaching 80.
You are now in the arms of my boy who we sent to the Navy. Is he holding you comfortably? Big brother, don't worry about our country anymore, but rest peacefully in our land. I will live in gratitude to our nation for bringing you back to us.
Che had been identified among the 7 sets of remains of South Korean soldiers killed during the 1950-53 war, handed over from US custody in Hawaii and flown to Seoul Air Base on Wednesday evening. Coming home on an Air Force tanker escorted by a squadron of F-35A fighter jets, the remains of the fallen soldiers received a hero's welcome in a reception ceremony hosted by President Yoon Suk-yeol. Yoon was joined by top Korean and US military officials to pay their utmost respects, greeting the arrival with the highest military honor, a 21-gun salute. Yoon presented each of the 7 soldiers, 6 of them yet to be identified, with combat medals for their bravery and sacrifice. The repatriated troops were among the remains collected by both US and North Korean excavations during the war and in the decades following. Initially believed to be American soldiers, the remains were later identified through joint forensic analysis as troops of the South Korean Army. Che's remains were delivered to Seoul National Cemetery, the resting place for fallen patriots and heroes, while the other 6 sets of remains will undergo forensics and DNA testing to identify the soldiers. Since 2012, the remains of 313 troops have been repatriated to South Korea from the US over 7 occasions. Only 19 of them so far have been identified. After the president pledged last month all-out efforts to return the nation's war dead to the arms of their surviving families, his office said on Wednesday that Yoon's first ceremony for the fallen soldiers' remains was organised with the conviction that the lives lost in the line of duty should serve as a call for our duty to remember them. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And also marking the anniversary, U.S. President Joe Biden has stressed the unbreakable Seoul-Washington alliance that was forged by the war veterans. The White House released a proclamation on National Korean War Veterans Armistice Day, where Biden also called for renewing Washington's commitment to democratic values and contributing to global peace and prosperity together with South Korea. Biden also recalled President Yoon's recent trip to the Korean War Veterans Memorial in the U.S., calling it a solemn reminder that the alliance is built on shared beliefs. The president also vowed continued efforts to repatriate fallen American soldiers. But there was no message toward North Korea in this year's proclamation. And the UN would like to see a resumption of diplomatic dialogue as an effort to lower tensions on the Korean Peninsula, leading ultimately to the verifiable denuclearization of the peninsula. The spokesperson for the UN Secretary General, Staffan Dujarric, said this when asked for a comment to both the South and North Koreans ahead of the 70th anniversary of the Korean Armistice Agreement. In regards to Russia and China sending delegations to North Korea, Dujarric said that the UN hopes that any member state with direct contact with Pyongyang will pass along the messages that will lead to diplomatic talks and denuclearization. Meanwhile, it is expected that the North will hold a military parade on Thursday to mark the anniversary, as it has done so in the past. Now, the signing of the Korean War armistice remains a reminder of the need to bring and maintain peace here on the Korean Peninsula. The date is also marked in North Korea, where it's known as Victory Day. For more, we're joined by Professor Park Won-kwon this morning. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me again.
Professor Park, first off, briefly for our viewers who may not be too familiar with the anniversary, could you explain why North Korea refers to the day as Victory Day?
Definitely, North Korea has distorted all the historical facts, and even North Korea called the Korean War as the liberation war for the motherland. And they argued that Korean War is the not start from the North Korea, but instead the South Korea and the United States attacked the North, and North Korea successfully repelled this invasion. So this armistice agreement signed on July 27th, 1953, and so North Korea called it as a Victory Day because North Korea argued that they repelled the UN forces and maintained control over their territory. And this is a very typical propaganda that North Korea has pursued for past almost 7 decades, and they said that this is a triumph against the United States and its allies, so emphasizing North Korea's ability to resist what they call the imperialist aggression. But here I will emphasize one more time that this Korean War is definitely start by the North Korea with the support of the Soviet Union and China.
Right. Even though it started from the Soviet Union and China, it's the North way of blaming South Korea and the U.S. for the war to actually begin with, right?
Yes, exactly. So that's the North Korea's argued for, and actually the China has unfortunately same interpretation to side with the North Korea.
Right. Now, the North Korea, they have carried out military parades to mark the occasion, right, in the past. And as of Thursday morning, right now, one has yet to take place. Now, should we expect one tonight as it has done so in the past overnight?
Yes, definitely North Korea will do the military parade because this year marks the 70th anniversary. And at the same time, South Korea and United States intelligence community already notified the kind of movement to prepare the parade. So I think it's going to start this military parade around 10 p.m. or the midnight, and it usually lasts more than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm. So definitely one on the way tonight between 10 p.m. and midnight, right? Now, since October 2022, the North has carried out the parades at nighttime in an apparent move to, magnify the events and make them stand out more. Now, is that why North Korea has been conducting missile launches at night lately?
Well, it's a little bit different. You are right. North Korea has launched missiles 3 times the past week. I think the main purpose to launch these missiles and to respond the ROK U.S. enhanced extended deterrence, such as the first meeting of the NCG, Nuclear Consultative Meeting, and the deployment of nuclear-powered submarines. And North Korea has conducted the missile test 19th at the 3:30 a.m. and fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles, and known as KN-23. And then 22nd, North Korea one more time launched this time cruise missiles at 4 a.m. and presumed to be Arrow 1 or Arrow 2 type of missiles. And then finally, 24th and around 12 a.m., North Korea has launched 2 SRBM short-range ballistic missiles. This time, It's allegedly known that KN-24 and 25. Important thing is that all those missiles that North Korea had launched the past week can deliver the nuclear warhead, so-called the tactical nuclear missiles. So I think they are going to show their capability to respond the enhanced extended deterrence of the South Korea and United States.
I see. Now, let's talk about what's happening up in Pyongyang. Now, Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and his North Korean counterparts vowed to boost cooperation in the field of defense, right? Professor Bach, how do you read the high-level talks that came for the first time in nearly 3 years?
Well, it is a very uncommon situation because you know that Russia is at war with Ukraine, but yet sent a person who takes charge of the war, the defense minister. I think at least two proposed for the Russian perspective. First, they wanted to show their unity or solidarity between North Korea and China because Russia is in diplomatic isolation and they definitely need to get support to counter the United States. Second, and Russia needs to support weapons from the North Korea. It's been prolonged war for more than 500 days, and Russia definitely depleted most of its weapons. And then also North Korea and Russia shares the weapon system, so-called those weapons can be interoperable. So North Korea will have the possibility to support the weapon to Russia, but not officially, because North Korea does not want to make NATO and European countries enemy. So there is still a possibility to do it informal way or some clandestine ways.
Right, possible weapons imports and exports behind the NATO's back, right?
Yes, exactly.
Now, the fact that Russia's defense minister made his time to go to Pyongyang in the time when he's in charge of this whole Ukraine crisis speaks a lot about North Korea, Russia, ganging up to show off their solidarity, right? Is that why delegations from China and Russia have been invited to North for this specific occasion?
Yes, from the North Korean perspective, there are several reasons to invite this delegation from Russia and China. First, North Korea wants to show their backup by the Russia and China because North Korea definitely wanted to show them to the world that they are not the rogue state and they're not the diplomatic isolation. And second, North Korea wants to justify the Korean War. I just mentioned that they have a very distorted historical interpretation. But if China and Russia shared in this commemoration of so-called Victory Day, and it's going to be a backup the North Korea's interpretation of the historical fact. And finally, North Korea wants to get some support from their legitimacy of their nuclear developments. And I'm pretty clear that the delegation from Russia and China will stand with Kim Jong-un in the military parade. And it's just simply showing that in the VIP box means that the tacit support of the North Korea's nuclear development because North Korea will show the nuclear missiles in the military parade.
Right. It's Pyongyang, Beijing, and Moscow's way of boasting their trilateral partnership against something that Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington have as their trilateral alliance.
Yes, that's what one of the main proposed that North Korea has invited the delegation from Russia and China because of the very enhanced the North Korea's military, especially nuclear capability. South Korea, United States, and Japan has the enhanced so-called trilateral cooperation for past year. So that's why North Korea is trying to bring the China and Russia to counter this kind of trilateral cooperation.
Sure. Let's see how this Armistice Day unfolds, or the Victory Day for North Korea unfolds today. Thanks for joining us this morning. You have a good day.
Thank you.
As widely expected, the U.S. Central Bank raised its key interest rates by 25 basis points, bringing the figure to the highest level in 22 years, but with little info on the Fed's next decision. Our Yi Seung-ja has more.
The U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday raised its key interest rates by 25 basis points, putting its lending rate in the 5.25% to 5.5% range. The borrowing rate in the U.S. has now reached its highest level since 2001. The rate hike comes after a rate freeze in the previous FOMC meeting, and despite consumer prices declining for 12 months in a row. Consumer prices have increased just 3% on year, marking the lowest annual inflation rate in more than 2 years. However, the U.S. Fed still feels it's too high and is looking to bring it down to its target of 2%. When asked if a further rate hike is possible at the next FOMC meeting slated for September, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said such a move is not out of the question.
It is certainly possible that we would raise funds again at the September meeting if the data warranted. And I would also say it's possible that we would choose to hold steady at that meeting.
Powell added that it's too early to tell when the U.S. Central Bank can start cutting its rates, but stressed that the U.S. Fed no longer expects a recession to occur due to the rate increases. However, economists in South Korea are watching closely how the latest rate hike by the U.S. Fed might impact South Korea, as the rate gap between the two countries now stands at 1.75 to 2 percentage points. The Bank of Korea froze its rate at 3.5% earlier this month. A higher rate gap could mean money outflows from Asia's fourth largest economy, which could ultimately weaken the local currency against the greenback, while putting upward pressure on inflation by making imports more expensive. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Samsung Electronics has unveiled its fifth-generation Galaxy foldable phones with bigger cover screens and a slimmer design. And the unveiling event took place here in Seoul for the first time. Our business correspondent Sinéad was there.
Another stride forward has been made by Samsung Electronics in the race to perfect folding smartphones. The South Korean tech giant showcased its latest fifth-generation Galaxy foldable smartphones at its annual Unpacked event on Wednesday in Seoul.
When technology seamlessly adapts to the world around us, it allows us to be open to new ideas, open for a world of unlimited possibilities. That's exactly what Samsung Galaxy lets us do.
This year's Unpacked was all about innovative design and overcoming weaknesses in the previous version. With a larger cover display of 3.4 inches, almost double the size of the previous version, the Galaxy Z Flip5 allows a variety of functions, including texting, even when it's folded. Users can quickly and effortlessly access more information than before, such as checking the weather, controlling the device's music player, and catching up on the latest global stock market updates. Users can also review, adjust the color tone, or delete images easily with the Quick View function on the cover display. When taking a photo of a friend, Dual Preview allows both the subject and the user to see the image on the cover and main screen simultaneously, so they can make adjustments in real time for the perfect shot.
The new cover screen is really great. It improves all what we can do with the screen, and I need to buy one, to be honest.
The biggest change to both the Z Flip5 and the Z Fold5 is the new hinge that allows the phones to close completely while minimizing screen creases. The weight of the Galaxy Z Fold5 is 253 grams, making it the lightest and thinnest design among all the Galaxy Z Fold series released to date. In terms of function, multitasking has been significantly enhanced compared to previous models. Taskbar, which allows a quick switching between applications, has been improved to provide access to up to 4 recently used apps. Additionally, the two-handed drag and drop feature allows users to select an image from the gallery with one hand and easily paste it into Samsung Notes using the other hand, making app and screen switching even more convenient. One expert says the latest devices are expected to help Samsung continue to lead the global foldable market.
Competition in the foldable market seems to have intensified as companies like Motorola and Google have also entered the market. However, a company that first entered the market with better technologies would dominate. Samsung is expected to lead the market.
Pre-orders for the phone start next Tuesday in South Korea and will be available from August 11th. Retail prices start at $999 for the Galaxy Z Flip5 and $1,799 for the Galaxy Z Fold5. 신하영, Arirang News.
South Korean automakers Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors will join hands with other car makers like BMW, General Motors, and Mercedes-Benz to form an EV charging alliance in the U.S. According to a joint press release on Wednesday, 7 automakers, including the 2 South Korean firms, will establish a joint venture to build an electric vehicle charging network in North America. It said that its goal is to create at least 30,000 high-power charging stations in cities and on highways to bring more convenience to the growing number of EV drivers. It plans to create its first charging station in the U.S. in the summer of 2024 before expanding to Canada.
Good morning, I'm Matthew Ashley, and we now turn over to stories from around the world. We begin in Niger, where an attempted coup is reportedly underway after members of the Presidential Guard detained President Mohamed Bazoum inside his palace in the capital Niamey. Now, local reports say the incident began on Wednesday when heavily armed guards sealed off the presidential complex using military vehicles. They also reportedly arrested the country's interior minister, placing him in the complex as well. Now, the attempted power grab has led to a standoff between the guards and the army, with talks between them ongoing. So far, the democratically elected leader has refused to give up power. The attempted coup has sparked protests in the capital, with presidential guards firing warning shots at people getting too close to the palace. It's also received global condemnation, including from the United Nations, the United States, and France. Now, in New York City, at least 12 people have been injured after a construction crane caught fire and partially collapsed. Now, the incident took place on Wednesday morning, local time, at a construction site on 10th Avenue in Midtown Manhattan. 9 civilians, including construction workers and 3 firefighters, are among the wounded. All are expected to make a full recovery. Footage of the scene shows the top of the crane in flames before its boom collapses before striking a nearby building. The crane was 45 stories high and was lifting around 16 tons of concrete when its operator noticed the fire and unsuccessfully tried to put it out. Now, it's believed the fire weakened the crane's cabling, causing the collapse. An investigation into the incident has been launched. Irish singer Sinéad O'Connor has died at the age of 56. News of her passing was shared by her family on Wednesday, with no details of her death given. O'Connor had been open about her decades-long struggle with mental illness, as well as her struggle following the suicide of her 17-year-old son in January 2022. She is best known for her worldwide #1 single, Nothing Compares to You, which was written by Prince. O'Connor was also an outspoken activist who famously ripped up a picture of the Pope during a live performance in 1993 on NBC's Saturday Night Live in protest over child sexual abuse in the Catholic Church. She released 10 albums between 1987 and 2014 and was reportedly working on another album for release next year. And finally, Hollywood actor Kevin Spacey has been cleared of sexual assault charges by a London court. Following 12 hours of deliberations on Wednesday, the jury found the 64-year-old not guilty of sexually assaulting 4 men in their 20s and 30s between 2004 and 2013. Spacey was the artistic director of a major London playhouse at the time. During the nearly month-long trial, Spacey claimed that accusations against him were financially motivated. But prosecutors argued that the 2-time Oscar-winning actor used his fame to sexually abuse his accusers. The ruling comes a year after a federal jury in Manhattan found the actor not liable for battery in a lawsuit filed by actor Anthony Rapp. He had accused Spacey of making sexual advances in 1986 when Rapp was 14.
Good morning. The rainy season officially came to an end yesterday at the usual time, and now we need to brace for days of extreme heat with sudden rain. Heat wave alerts are in place across much of Korea, with Gyeongju seeing highs going up as high as 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon. And there will be a chance of sudden rain during the day with up to 80 millimeters in the forecast. It could come down heavily once it begins to rain, so those near the water need to beware of heavy passing showers today. Checking on our blistering highs, Seoul will go up to 32 degrees, Daegu at 34. Feels like temperatures will be a couple of degrees higher due to high humidity. And when it does not rain, strong UV rays will beam down. So plan accordingly if you're heading outdoors, have your sun protection and umbrella ready. The sweltering summer temperatures keep coming and will stay with us day and night. Meanwhile, the number of heat-related illnesses patients is on the rise, so please take good care of yourself. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Friday's edition at the same time.